You got to be detailed, precise, and informed.
That's DPI.
Welcome back, everybody, to That's DPI. I'm Zach, and that is Tyler over there, and we have some amazing NFL content for you. The NFL just out of nowhere dropped two massive stories that are right up our alley. The first one is the Pro Bowl is gone. Sir, the Pro Bowl is gone. And then RIP the Pro Bowl. You will not be missed by many. And the second news is the NFL has rolled out a brand new suspension policy based on some new moves that or some moves on the football field that you are prohibited from doing and that you will now receive automatic suspensions for upon violating. And we're going to get into that. I know that's not very revealing, but Tyler has the whole breakdown for us. But we're going to, and then of course we have our preseason recaps of both the Detroit Lions and the Kansas City Chiefs' second preseason games. And then at the end, we're going to debate what is the easiest position in football if we have time, which I hope we do because that'll be fun. But jumping right in to the Pro Bowl, the NFL announced just a few hours before we recorded this that there will no longer be a physical Pro Bowl game, just a recognition of 88 players on the AFC and the NFC, and that's it. So, Tyler, I'm going to jump straight to you. What are your initial immediate thoughts on the elimination of the Pro Bowl?
So you said in your intro that it will not be missed by many. It will be missed by me. Did I watch the Pro Bowl? No, I did not. But I really feel like the Pro Bowl was one of those events that was very fan-friendly to the fans that did attend. And it was kind of a bucket list item for me to attend a Pro Bowl. So I'm sad that it's gone. I feel like it's kind of like, I was debating on this analogy earlier, so I'm going to say it. It's kind of like the PGA Tour. Is it watched by many outside of the Masters? No, it's not. But people like to go and watch it. It's a lot better in person than it is on TV. Maybe that was a bad analogy, but I think I see a lot of stuff on social media of players interacting with the fans and the fans having a good time and lots of giveaways. And it seems like a very fan-friendly environment. It's like the Hall of Fame preseason game. That's the analogy I want to stick with. As someone who's been to the Hall of Fame preseason game, it's bad football. It's a preseason game at the end of the day, but it's so fun to attend. There's so much fan stuff going on. There's player autograph stuff. There's players interacting with fans. There's all of these other things happening too around Hall of Fame week. And it's a fun environment, and I'm sad that it's gone.
Yeah, I don't think that the PGA Tour is a very good comparison, but you did amend your statement, and that's okay.
Bad. It's a Hall of Fame game. Maybe we can edit that part out.
I'm not going to, but the Hall of Fame game is a much better comparison. To me, it almost reminds me of like the Bad Boy Mowers Bowl. You know, a bowl that not very many people tune into unless your team's playing in it, but we would all be sad if the Bad Boy Mowers Bowl went away, or like the Duke's Mayo Bowl, some random bowl that has like a fun tie-in, you know, because at the end of the day, those two mean nothing in the grand scheme of things. Why the PGA Tour doesn't work is the PGA Tour means a lot. It'd be kind of like saying getting rid of the Kansas City NASCAR race, but even though
I was thinking your typical golf tournament, not your major championships, but that's where my mind was. But,
I mean, if you want to go with a golf tournament, you can get rid of that golf tournament that like Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Tom Brady would play in every once in a while, because that's a meaningful golf event where Pro Bowlers go and play, and would be fun to attend, but overall doesn't mean anything.
That might be a good analogy of it, though.
But I think the reason why the Pro Bowl's going away is twofold. There's two reasons. Number one, nobody was watching it. You would yourself admitted that you didn't watch it. It was taking up valuable screen time ahead of the Super Bowl for nobody to watch it. Where in an era where sports media would rather prop up guys like Pat McAfee or other NFL talking heads, allowing the NFL to broadcast a meaningless flag football event that nobody's watching seems like a waste of airwaves for the NFL. And that's clearly the direction they were going. The last tackle football game received 6.7 million viewers, and this most recent Pro Bowl was down to 1.9 million viewers. I mean, that's almost 500% decrease in viewing. So I understand why the NFL is going in that direction. But number two, the second reason is because of the alternate situation. Players were declining to go to the Pro Bowl, devaluing it, by their decision to not go. And so the Pro Bowl was becoming less and less valuable ever since they took away the tackle element of it. And last year we had guys like Shedeur Sanders getting Pro Bowl honors, which should never, ever happen. And I actually am commending the NFL for getting rid of such a broken thing so quickly, because this had a real opportunity to become a complete disaster. I mean, Tyler Snoop Huntley was a Pro Bowler, the backup to Lamar Jackson a few years ago, and now Shedeur Sanders. The NFL jumped right on it and said, we're not going to be giving away honors to anybody else.
Yeah, and I get it. I understand why, especially with viewerships. The money is in the viewerships. But every other sports league has some type of all-star game. MLB baseball works because there's no risk of injury and it's midseason. NBA all-star game is kind of getting bad. I understand that it's been really bad football for a long time. But I don't know. I think there should be some type of thing. Again, I really think about it from the fan aspect of those attending. I feel like it would have been a fun thing to attend.
And
that I won't get a chance to do it anymore.
That to me is the worst part about it, is that the fans no longer get to experience. They moved it from Hawaii to Florida to make it more fan accessible. Didn't really work all that well. But it does suck that we'll never get a That's DPI on location episode at the Pro Bowl. However, I don't think that this is the end of the celebration of Pro Bowlers. I think it's just a hiatus. Hear me out on this. Roger Goodell has been unbelievably vocal about making the NFL international. We got to go international. Eventually we'll have international teams. We're playing more international games per year than ever before in the NFL. I think the Pro Bowl is going to be a rotating international city event where Pro Bowlers visit, sign autographs, and maybe do a few skills challenges every year. So it'll be in Munich, it'll be in Japan, it'll be in England. This is 5 years down the line. They're just ending the U.S. version of it right now so that they can plan for their international tour. That's my prediction with where the Pro Bowl is going. It'll be another opportunity for the NFL to spread their brand internationally.
My only concern with that, I do like that. Yeah. My only concern is what's stopping someone from still being like, I'm not going on the international tour. I just lost a crushing defeat in the AFC Championship game. The last thing I now want to do is be in France, right? I'm staying home.
Nothing. But guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, who are of German heritage, will happily attend once the Lions lose the NFC Championship game, and if it's in Munich or something like that. And at the end of the day, these players will be encouraged by their agents to increase their international footprint as well. If the NFL's doing it, the players are going to be encouraged to do it too, because if you have, people in England buying Jacksonville Jaguars jerseys, I'm sure that a Pro Bowler can go overseas and really make an impact on some international kids and, make them fans of them for life. And I think that the NFL will encourage these players to do that. It'll be a lot cooler than Orlando. And I do think that players still attended the Pro Bowl in good volumes when it was in Hawaii, when it was an actual destination that people want to visit. It's a running joke, but people say, hey, you're off to Cancun when you lose in the playoffs. Cancun's a lot cooler than Orlando. Nobody wants to go to Florida. It's not tropical. It's not even on a beach. So these guys want to go to a cool place.
The only thing is that the Pro Bowl has been at the Super Bowl location, though.
Oh, has it? I thought it was Vegas, in Orlando.
They did Orlando for a couple years, but the last few years it had been at the Super Bowl location, like Vegas and LA. But
got it.
Places that players can go all of the time, whenever they want.
Point stands.
But your point does stand.
It's not a cool place anymore. It's not Hawaii. So maybe when they go back to cool places, the players will be more incentivized to go. But regardless, what's going to happen for the next couple of years is the NFL is just going to recognize the 88 best players in football, and it's going to be a welcome change. Much, much better. The Pro Bowl honor will have suddenly more value once again. When the last couple of years, I feel like it's really been devalued because guys have been getting Pro Bowls, even though they didn't earn it just because three guys ahead of them opted out, right? So I've been myself personally relying on all pros a lot more than Pro Bowls. And the Pro Bowl will still, of course, be a fan vote. But now at least we know that when we vote, the player's actually going to get the dang honor, right?
Yeah, no, I do like that aspect a lot. I like that they're still doing the Pro Bowl honor like as an award. I like that they're not getting rid of that.
Yeah, and they said they're going to have some sort of celebration in February for the Pro Bowlers, so at least the players will still get some sort of recognition, whether not in front of fans, I don't think. But the NFL, I think, is trying to re-legitimize the Pro Bowl, and so that begs the question: is it more important to have a barely watched fan event at the end of the season, or is it more important to recognize players that deserve to be recognized and revalue your Pro Bowl honor, whereas all-stars in basketball and the MLB, all-star appearances mean something because they're mid-season in the MLB and they mean something in basketball. I think there's an all-star break in basketball too. I haven't watched it in a while, but
I think there is, yeah.
But yeah, the NFL is going for meaning rather than fan interaction, and I appreciate that because yes, every other sports league has an all-star game, but every other sport also has a more meaningful all-star appearance than the NFL. The NFL is clearly by far the worst.
That's fair. The one proposal that I want to add myself, and then we'll get on to our rules analysis portion, is I think back to the Hall of Fame game. The Hall of Fame game is a very meaningless football game, but fans love to attend because it's Hall of Fame week. The meaning behind it is the Hall of Fame, the players getting enshrined to the Hall of Fame. My proposal is the Pro Bowl comes back in, like you said, 5 or 6 years at the NFL Honors. And the award that fans are watching is the NFL Honors, but there's a little bit of a skills challenge early on in the day to get the afternoon started to have the NFL Honors in the evening.
So the guys are coming out and doing, like a quarterback challenge or like a running back challenge, and then attending the NFL Honors dinner rather than, and just kind of looping them both in. I don't hate that either, because the players are already going to be there, right? So that's the best part. You're not going to get opt-outs because the guys are there. Maybe they'll opt out of the drill, but the guys are already.
But even then, if you make it something where they're not risking injury by playing a full flag football game or a dodgeball game, just some fun drills, sign autographs with the fans, give something there. Maybe have a little bonus and financial bonus incentive to participate in them. I don't know, something that we can play around with if there is any light of the Pro Bowl coming back down the road.
Sure, I don't hate that, and I am making the prediction that the Pro Bowl is not gone for good. There will be some, maybe it won't be called the Pro Bowl, but there will be some sort of international recognition or recognition of players, an event down the road. The NFL just wants a break and they need time to strategize, which I think is fine. But moving on to our second topic, more NFL news dropped, and it has everything to do with what That's DPI is all about. It's about the NFL rules and ref enforcement. Tyler, I know that you have that list on hand. Are you able to read kind of what infractions are going to start resulting in suspensions and how many times you have to commit those infractions to get suspended?
Yes. So this is a joint statement from the NFL and the NFLPA, and I think that does mean a lot, and I'll explain that. But if any player commits the following 3 times doing any of the following, they're automatically suspended for 1 game. There are 5 things on this list. There is a hip drop tackle, a horse collar tackle, launching, a hit on a defenseless player, and a blindside block. And per the joint statement, quote, players who commit 3 offenses in any of these categories during a season will be suspended for 1 game. Players who commit only 1 violation will receive 50% of their fine back at the end of the season. Yeah. So if you do a horse collar tackle, you'll get fined. And if you don't do that 2 more times, you'll get 50% of your fine back.
Got it. Okay. I think that part is why the NFLPA is so happy about it, is because of the fine reimbursement. That was never a thing. If you're not aware, the NFL it still does, or last season at least, would review games afterwards and issue fines on Tuesday or Wednesday after the games, and there'd just be this huge transaction log and the plays on which the players would be fined for. So if you committed a roughing the passer penalty and you were penalized for it in game, then you'd probably show up in the transaction log as receiving a fine, and that fine would be proportional to your the amount of times you had done it that year. So they're kind of redoing that structure a little bit, and then kind of specifying these 5 infractions as suspendable offenses.
And the thing that I do like about it is that is that if you do it 3 times, you're suspended 1 game. I think that makes sense because I think it's very easy to accidentally do one of those things. If you're trying to make a game-saving touch or a touchdown-saving tackle, and it accidentally ends up being a horse collar, that happens over the course of a season sometimes.
Sure.
3 of them, it's that 3 strikes you're outlaw. And I think that the NFLPA being on board with that is huge because that means this is something that the players want to be protected from. Players want to be protected from horse collar tackles. Players want to be protected from a hit against a defenseless receiver. And so the fact that they're like, yep, 3 times and you get suspended, even defensive players signing off on this, I think says a lot about the players' will to be protected by these 5 infractions.
Sure. And I do think it is interesting that 4 of the 5 of these are related to the defense, right? Hip drop tackle, horse collar tackle, launching, and hit on a defenseless player. There is an offensive infraction in there, and that's a blindside block. But there's a lot of protections for the offense and fines for the defense. So I'd be curious to hear NFL defenders' opinions on this. But I also think that it's important to note what isn't included. Roughing the passer, face mask. These infractions aren't included because I think that they're a lot more common than these other infractions. And if the NFL started suspending defenders for that, we'd run out of defenders by week 14. So,
well, and I also think that the nature of the crimes are something to look at too. A blindside block, every single blindside block is a dangerous play. It has the ability to get hurt. A horse collar tackle, you have the ability to come down wrong and get injured. Hit against a defenseless receiver, concussion, etc. Not all of those other penalties are always safety concerns. That's a roughing the passer. You graze the face mask 3 times in a game, and or 3 times in a season, you're suspended. I think a lot of the defensive players are like, that's too far because we've seen some of these penalties be absolutely insane. Correct call, but off a bad rule. And so I think until that rule gets fixed as to what roughing the passer is, I don't think the NFLPA is going to get on board with that one.
Yeah, and another aspect that I don't know if you read out yet, but violations in any of these 5 categories will carry over into next season and the season after that. Any subsequent seasons. So if I committed a horse collar tackle in 2026 this coming year and I commit nothing else, I'll go into 2027 with 1 violation already.
Oh, I did not see that part.
That is according to the NFL. It might be in your write-up too, but I'll still receive 50% of my fine back because I only committed 1. But the NFL is made sure to say that everybody in 2026 is starting with a clean slate. There's nobody carrying over anything. But this new rule, you will start to carry violations over season by season. And so that will be very interesting to see how that's enforced. Because if I go in to 2027, with 2 violations and I commit a violation week 1, I'm then suspended for a game, which is nuts. That's crazy. But the NFL is really trying to curb some of this illegal behavior, and this is the new way they're doing it. Penalties are just not enough.
Yeah, and with players making so much more money every year after year also, fines just aren't enough too.
Correct. Exactly. With the NFL rising in value, the salary cap is rising, and Alec Pierce is getting paid $100 million over 4 years. So it's safe to say that NFL players are getting paid a lot more than they were even 5 years ago. That's a good point.
Yeah, I'm reading through this now. I'm not just texting. A single, yeah. There's a couple more nuanced stuff in there about the fines, but that's essentially it. I like it personally. I don't know if I like that carry over to the next season, but I mean,
I was shocked that NFL players agreed to that. Truly.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it was a negotiating chip. It's like, hey, we the league want this to carry over. So if you allow this to carry over, we will make it to where it doesn't happen until you do 3 of them. So I wonder if that might have been a bargaining chip on them.
Potentially. I know that
We
you and
will
I
we'll never
covered,
know what happened in the room where it happened.
right?
We'll
Well,
never
I know
know
that
what got discussed.
you Hamilton reference. I love it. I know that you and I talked about right around when it happened, the hip drop tackle becoming a penalty in the NFL. I don't know how many hip drop tackles you've seen personally called, but this may be the only rule in the NFL rulebook that hasn't come back to bite the Lions yet, because I haven't seen it happen either. There have only been 3 hip drop tackles, according to NFL.com, called in the 2 years that it's been a penalty. And so,
Yeah, I'm seeing that now too. It was 1 in 2024 and then 2 last year.
And so I think that it's rarely rarely be called as a penalty because refs aren't looking for it. But I think that's kind of why they're looking to curb the hip drop tackle, and why it's listed first is because they really want to make sure that players are not committing a hip drop tackle because it results in injuries so frequently. I mean, they changed the entire kickoff to reduce injuries, and now they're doing the same thing with the hip drop tackle. I'm actually pretty much in favor of this because my team has been brutally massacred by injuries, and I really want to see a safe game of football played year in and year out. And I think the NFL does too. They understand how important it is that their most brand recognized players stay out there. But in case you were curious, 28 blindside blocks were called in 2025, and 4 horse collar tackles were called in 2025. So this
interesting.
won't happen very often.
That last one to be higher.
Yeah, not that many horse collar tackles. And interestingly enough, horse collar tackles are legal on quarterbacks in the pocket. So those will not be enforced.
Interesting.
But every other horse collar tackle will be. But I'm in agreement with it. I'm excited to see how it plays out, and I'm interested on who will be the first player suspended under these new rules.
And I also can't wait for the inevitable, where a player's third offense will be due to a controversial call of one of those. Maybe he's grabbed right here and it's called horse collar, and that's his third one. So I'm wondering if that'll be reviewable in any way if it's wrong.
Yeah, well, appealable for sure, I would hope.
Yeah.
But I am more confident that won't happen because I don't think the NFL is actually going to change how they enforce these penalties, which there hasn't been very many. 3 hip drops, 4 horse collars, and 28 blindside blocks. That's very low when you consider holding and other calls are so frequent.
Yeah.
So I don't think that a lot of these suspensions and infractions are going to be doled out on the field. A lot of them are going to be through the post-game disciplinary process, kind of like they had been before, which I think is a much better way to handle it because you can watch film, you can see it happen, you can verify that it was actually an infraction, and then you can make the decision there. It's up to the discretion of the NFL. And overall, I think they do a decent job. Obviously, there's still some disagreement from players when they get fined, but I think that the post-game analysis is much better than, leaving it up to a ref. And that's why I think the NFL is instituting this rather than making the refs ramp up hip drop tackle penalties on the field.
Yeah, I agree. You said that the Lions have not yet been scrutinized by the refs on that call. And they've had some opportunities. They played a preseason game last week.
They did.
Another preseason game. They're 2 games in.
Yeah, and they won this time. They lost their first preseason game, but the Lions won, and I thought that it was another excellent game for a lot of these guys on the roster bubble. Ahmed Hassanin is someone we talked about last week. He posted another 86 PFF grade, and he was second on the team. Again, he's been top 2 the last 2 weeks. For those of you who've seen PFF grades, that's another blue to dark blue grade, which is some of the best you can possibly earn. He notched a team lead 7 pressures for the Lions.
Wow.
He is making the team, like, in a preseason game, 7 pressures. That's a full game stat line right there. And so Hassanin is impossible to block right now. And the Lions played a lot of their starters, a lot more starters than I'm used to. DJ Reed played a lot. Blake Miller played a ton. Most of the starting offensive line that isn't named Penei Sewell played a lot. And Derek Moore, the rookie, the second round pick, got his first action. He played really well, notched a strip sack. And so I was really happy with the Lions defense. I think they held the Commanders to like 38 rushing yards on 17 carries. Commanders couldn't rush the ball at all.
Yeah. Yeah, 17 carries off 35 yards and averaging
35
yards. Yeah, even more.
That's ridiculous. That is impressive run defense when you're subbing out defensive linemen like crazy. That just shows that the philosophy that we've seen on those Lions teams that were successful, i.e. 23 and 24, stopping the run first, is back. Because it kind of fell off a cliff towards the end of 2025, and that's partly the reason why the Lions missed the playoffs. So I'm really, really glad to see stuff like that. I do think that this team will be made or break by their secondary. Go ahead, Tyler.
To make that rushing stat even more crazy, 6 of those yards was a quarterback scramble.
Right.
So if you take away the quarterback scramble, it's 16 carries and 29 yards.
And I watched the whole game. Not only did the running backs have nowhere to go, they were consistently pushed. The offensive linemen were pushed 2-3 yards deep in the backfield, and the running backs were just smothered. It was really, really impressive to watch. I think that Kelvin Shepard is gunning for an assistant coach of the year nomination if he can get this Lions defense remotely top 10 because of how good that offense is. If their defense is good, he will be a head coach somewhere sooner rather than later. But, we kind of talked about some guys that were struggling. Ennis Rakestraw posted another 32 PFF grade. That's back-to-back grades in the 30s. I really, really hope to see him improve in the final preseason game. But so far, it has not happened. At least he did not get injured. And then other guys like Mekhi Wingo, who I talked about being on the roster bubble, didn't have the best game either. So that is unfortunate for those players. So the good players continued to stand out and the bad players continued to play bad. But the Lions won, and I'm really curious who's going to win the QB2 job as well, because Josh Dobbs and Luke Altmaier are battling it out. Dobbs threw a bad interception and fumbled it 20 yards back into the end zone. It was really bad. But then Josh Dobbs ran it in from 50 yards out for a touchdown. So Dobbs had the highs and the lows, but you really expect that from the rookie. You don't expect that from the 10-year NFL vet. And Luke Altmaier did not turn the ball over, but he also didn't lead the Lions on a touchdown drive. So Luke Altmaier seems like he's being very safe, and Josh Dobbs seems like he's being very aggressive when you'd think that the veteran and the rookie would be switching those roles. So I will be curious to see, number one, how much playing time each of them get in the next preseason game, but who wins that job eventually. But speaking of quarterbacks getting playing time, the Chiefs are making an interesting decision, right? With Garrett Nussmeier coming up.
Yes. He will be playing all 4 quarters in the third preseason game against the Seattle Seahawks this Friday, which to me is Andy Reid pretty much giving Garrett Nussmeier, here's your opportunity to take quarterback number 2, because Justin Fields has not been doing well. I texted you that we are screwed if Mahomes goes down with Justin Fields at quarterback. His stats look better than I thought he looked on the field. He got an 86.8 rating, but that's still 9 for 12 on his passing for only 64 yards. 2 sacks, but one of those sacks was absolutely insane of a loss.
I just watched it. That was incredible.
It was absolutely insane. It was awful. But I'm happy that Nussmeier gets his opportunity. He's going to get his chance with the starters, the first team for the preseason team anyway, because no chance that any of the real starters happen. It's going to be a bubble game for sure. But Nussmeier gets the nod all week. Emmett Johnson gets another touchdown for the Chiefs. He's looking great. He might be fighting for running back number 2, perhaps. I'm thinking also, because Emmett Johnson has been looking stellar during preseason and at training camp. Rashard Smith hasn't been looking as stellar, So I'm very excited to see what Emmett Johnson could perhaps do. Jalen Royals also had a great game, 6 receptions for 51 yards. I'm hoping that he gets more into the offense. Cyrus Allen, 3 catches for 7 yards. He's been the preseason. He's been the training camp stud. I don't expect him to maybe get a ton of stuff. I think he's a roster lock. So we will see kind of what Garrett Nussmeier to Jalen Royals will look like this upcoming week.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped to watch that. Worth noting that according to Pro Football Focus, Justin Fields and Garrett Nussmeier in this last game earned the exact same grade of 53.1. Exactly the same.
Oh.
So it really does seem like the Chiefs are saying, we know what we have in Fields. Nussmeier, go prove that you can be the QB2 for Mahomes for 4 weeks or for 4 quarters. Because it really is neck and neck. I don't think that either of them have really pulled away. Nussmeier has looked impressive at times and also has looked lost at times, as any rookie would. So I think this is really giving them the chance to get a full game's reps and get into a rhythm and hopefully prove that he has what it takes. But I agree with you on Emmett Johnson. I really like what I've seen from him. I'm actually a proud Emmett Johnson fantasy owner in my 12-man league because I think he will be the RB2 behind Kenneth Walker, who's my RB1. So if he goes down, Emmett Johnson should certainly take over the backfield.
Does your stats show how many times Garrett Nussmeier was pressured? Because I see 0 sacks, 9 for 17, but 0 sacks. So I'm wondering how many times he was pressured at least.
It does show that. So Garrett Nussmeier was pressured 5 times, and Justin Fields was pressured 8 times. 8 times. And took 2 sacks. Nussmeier took 0 sacks off of those 5 pressures.
Okay. So that is something, at least off 17 attempts, taking 0 sacks, I think is very impressive. I think that might be his SEC quarterback in him, knowing what SEC defenses can do. You cannot take a sack. Those are crucial in those types of games. So that training coming out, perhaps, I hope he does well. I really hope he earns the number 2 job, personally.
Yeah,
I am so worried about Fields.
Yeah, I think that you kind of summed up Fields' career. You said, the stats look better than the play on the field. Yeah, that's kind of been the story of Fields' career, even though he's had some pretty notable statistical duds. Justin Fields made his money in Pittsburgh by just not throwing interceptions, but they benched him for Russell Wilson halfway through the year. So clearly the Steelers saw the same thing in Fields. They're like, yeah, the stats are fine. Like, he's not turning the ball over. But, man, we just need to see more from the passing game, and Fields just doesn't have the ability to stretch the field with his arm like Nussmeier might be able to. I'm not saying he will. But I think another notable thing was the highs and lows of the kicking game for Kansas City. Harrison Butker made a 69-yard field goal. Freaking awesome. Then he missed a PAT that lost him the game.
Well, the PAT was a 43-yard PAT.
That's true. It was penalty.
Because of a holding call.
It was penalty assisted. But you'd still expect your kicker to make a 43-yarder. And
yeah.
Especially after he drained a 69-yarder.
That was tough. So the one defense that I would give over Harrison Butker, and you can take this however you want, is that field goal, he had the announcer jinx. Right? The announcer quite literally said, after making a 69-yarder, this is just chip shot for Harrison Butker. Wide right. Yeah. But I also think that's the epitome of Harrison Butker. Harrison Butker is in midseason form. He's going to nail a 60-plus yard field goal and then miss a 40-yard field goal.
Yeah,
Harrison Butker's in midseason form.
Well, he is, and we say midseason and not playoff form because Harrison Butker performs best when he's in the playoffs, but he has lost the Chiefs' regular season game a time or two with some untimely misses, but he rarely misses in the playoffs, and that's why I don't think the Chiefs even consider bringing in competition for training camp. There was a few years where they brought in a backup punter, but Harrison Butker hasn't had kicking competition at camp since Tyler and I have been going because he's the Chiefs guy through and through, no matter what.
Yeah, he's earned his. He had some struggles, obviously. But like you said, he has been nails in the playoffs.
One player I do want to discuss is second-round pick Peter Woods, because he has been notable for not doing anything. He has a 44 PFF grade in this past game, but in totality of the preseason, his PFF grade is one of the worst in the NFL, and it sits at let me find it really quick. Oh, it's last on the team at 34.1. Now, when you compare this to Caden McDonald, who was another interior defensive lineman that we liked, Caden McDonald's also trash. Both of them have a 0% pass rush win rate, and neither of them have a good grade. McDonald's in the 40s as well. The only difference between McDonald and Woods is McDonald has recorded a tackle and Woods hasn't. But they both only have one pressure on the entire preseason, and Woods has played more snaps than McDonald. So it seems like neither player is really doing well in their first preseason action. But what is your first reaction to these early struggles by Woods, who's someone who's been impressing in training camp, but just hasn't really turned it on the field?
Yeah, I mean, Peter Woods has not been playing well. This is exactly what I was worried about when we drafted him. This goes right back to our draft coverage, is that I had Peter Woods falling out of the first round in a couple mock drafts. I did not want the Chiefs to take him. And we're seeing this. Now, I do like that you mentioned Cade McDonald, because that was my big complaint, is that, like, we're going to draft Woods over McDonald. So it makes me a little bit more optimistic that someone else is doing bad, because maybe it's just those preseason jitters. I use Jamar Chase as an example as well. Jamar Chase was horrible in the preseason his rookie year. And then I think he won Rookie of the Year, didn't he?
Yeah, it was pretty
He had a
undisputed as
lot
well.
of drops. Yes, and he had a lot of drops in the preseason. There was a lot of memes about it. I do vividly remember that. So hopefully that's the case.
So this is so hilarious, Tyler.
I really hope that's the case.
Because I was debating with my friends earlier in the year, or earlier in the day actually, about that Jamar Chase rookie year, about all the memes about his drops. And that didn't really go away in the NFL season. Jamar Chase, in his rookie year, had a 10% drop percentage, which is good for a 54 PFF grade. Okay? Mm-hmm. He was just so good at everything else that he overcame his 10% drop percentage, which is the highest drop percentage of his career. He has lowered it ever since, right? Last year, he had a 4.6. So, but the drops were certainly a concern with Jamar Chase. But when you're getting 18 yards per reception, nobody cares if you drop 10% of your passes, because the 90% that you do catch, you're almost always taking for a first down. And so I think that bringing up Jamar Chase, one, does have utility because he was able to bounce back from those early preseason mistakes. But two, it doesn't exactly explain away the preseason and say, oh, well, you can ignore the preseason, because the problems that were there in the preseason for Chase persisted into his entire rookie year. So I think that the truth lies somewhere in the middle. We should value preseason snaps for sure, but we should not put all of our stock into them. But I think when evaluating rookies, they're probably the most valuable material we as the public are allowed to get.
I agree. And I also want to go back to actually my draft notes on Peter Woods. My draft notes on Peter Woods says good size, strength, athleticism, explosive first step, lacks pass rush, but gets pressure.
And so far, he has not gotten a lot of pressure. And I think that's largely because in the NFL, even the worst guards are really good at preventing pressure from the interior, because interior pressure is the number one killer of a drive and the killer of quarterbacks. And, you know, I know that edge rushers get paid a lot of money, but if you have a disruptive guy, i.e. Aaron Donald, he's going to disrupt games and take games over. And that's why NFL guards, you know, have to be a lot better. But yeah, I will be interested to see how Peter Woods performs in the third preseason game. He will be certainly a player I have a microscope on, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of defensive linemen, Tyler, I wanted to debate you on what the easiest position is in the NFL. And I actually think that it is now hear me out. It is specifically an
I don't
archetype.
like where you're going. When you said speaking of defensive linemen, I was like,
it's specifically an archetype of defensive tackle. And if you'll let me clarify this, I think it is a run-stopping defensive tackle. If your job is to come in and stop the run on defense, I think that's the easiest job in the NFL because it has less to do with skill and more to do with mass. If you are large, you can be a two-gapping stop, like a DJ Reader, for example. I really like DJ Reader as a player, but I think that his job is fairly easy. It is to be big and take up space. He doesn't make the tackles. His middle linebacker makes the tackles behind him because his only job is to take up space and read where the running back's going. And I think that technically it's not that impressive because a lot of these two-gapping defensive tackles are just large. It's kind of like being a center in the NBA. If you are 7'5", you're going to get rebounds. Not saying that center is not a technically impressive, and not saying that you can't be technically impressive at center, but a lot of the center's job is to just be big and get rebounds. It's certainly a lot less skill than a point guard.
Okay, so we're going easiest position. Okay, we had talked about easiest position. So my question is, number one, can I go special teams?
You can.
And number two, can I, if we're going like roll within the starting position, can I do that on offense too? Like a specific role, not like backup. It's got to be a starter, but
sure. I'll allow you some leeway.
Okay. Because I think being a defensive tackle itself is very hard.
Agreed.
But if we're specifying run-stopping defensive tackle, then I kind of want to we'll factor out defense for a second. But if we can go specifics on the position, I would go third down running back. Third down running back, your whole job is to just plow forward. Let your offensive line get you a hole, and then you just plow forward.
Do you mean like third and short running back, like a power back? Because typically a third down running back is a pass catching back. Who does pass protection.
That third and short.
Got it.
Yeah, that
so
third
like
and
a Kareem
short.
Hunt.
So maybe a fullback, I guess. Maybe a fullback is what I'm looking for as the easiest position in sports. Okay, you're only going to be as good as your offensive line. If you have a bad offensive line, you're going to get stuff. If you have a good offensive line, you have the easiest job in football, and it's just to not fumble the ball and go forward. Originally, though, I was thinking punter as the easiest position in football. Not because being a punter is extremely easy, but I think every other position is much harder. Because if you suck at it, just kick it as far as you can, and maybe you get a touchback, as long as you don't fumble the ball. I would go punter as the easiest overall position in football, but if we're going to get specific with the roles, I would go fullback or third and short running back.
And I think that punter is probably the correct answer, but I like my hot take of a run-stopping defensive tackle being easier than a punter because I think that there is more technical skill in being a good punter. I think a good punter has a higher ceiling than a run-stopping defensive tackle. I just think that if you can consistently pin the opponent inside the 10, that's number one, really hard. Only top 3 guys in the NFL can really do it consistently. And number 2, it requires more technical ability. There's not very many guys that can do it. I think that there are more run-stopping defensive tackles in existence than guys that can consistently pin the other team inside the 10, which to me would indicate, and I think that there's probably only, and that is despite the fact that there are more roles on a team for a run-stopping defensive tackle, you can probably have 2 to 3 guys who specialize in stopping the run per team, but 1 punter per team, and there's still more guys. There's still less punters that can do that. So
the way I thought of it was, if you are mid, just you don't have a colossal failure, like let it like like dropping the snap. If you don't have a colossal failure, you're just mid. How detrimental is it to the team? If you're a mid defensive tackle, run stopping defensive tackle, they get the first down every single time, and then you're going to give up points. If you're a mid punter, the opponent gets the ball at the 40 instead of the 20. It's not as colossal.
Well, we're not debating impact, are we? We're debating ease of position.
Yeah, but
so we're arguing. We're not arguing.
I think it's easier. The impact is why I think it's
maybe
easier.
That takes the pressure off of it, but I don't think that impact factors into ease of play at all.
Okay.
Kicker's also fairly easy, but I think that the pressure of the kicker makes it more difficult to hit kicks under pressure. So you can make that argument, but run-stopping defensive tackles are typically only in on first and second down, so they shouldn't face a ton of internal pressure anyway. So they're not really doing a crazy important. Their job is important, just like a punter's job is important, but they aren't in on passing downs. They aren't in on the most important downs, third and fourth down of the game. They are counted on to do one very specific job, which largely is because they're bigger than everybody else. And that's why, to me, it's easier than a punter, because also these guys get 40 reps a game, so their mistakes are minimized. But if punters get maybe 5 reps a game, and so if you make a mistake, it's 12%, 15% of your snaps were a mistake, and so your impact is magnified as a punter rather than a run-stopping defensive tackle. Maybe 40 snaps was a bit generous. Maybe 25 to 30 is the max. You'll see, but it's certainly more than a punter.
I'll give you that over punter, but then I go back to fullback then.
Yeah. I think fullback is kind of the run-stopping defensive tackle of the offense for sure, because, if Kareem Hunt can do it, I don't think he was showing a lot of technical skill at running back last year. But I do think that the ceiling for it being a great fullback
either.
Yeah, but the ceiling for being a great fullback is high, because as a fullback, there's other skills that you can perform, such as pass blocking, such as being a really good run blocker in space. That's hard, especially against DBs and linebackers that are hyper athletic. There's catching the ball occasionally. Fullbacks used to do that a lot more. Now they don't. But the best of the best, like Pat Ricard and Kyle Juszczyk, do. And so I think Kyle Juszczyk's job is very hard. It takes a lot of skill. But maybe the average fullback, in his expectations are pretty easy. Hey, just run forward, don't fumble. I don't disagree with that at all.
Okay. And obviously the hardest is quarterback, right?
100% easily.
Is there any debate that it could be anything else, just for the sake of content?
The only position that I could possibly say is potentially harder is cornerback, defensive back, lining up on the outside, because of the way that penalties are being enforced in the NFL recently. It's so hard to cover the best athletes in football, which are receivers, in my opinion. They're always the fastest. Look at Hill. They're the best athletes on the field at any given time. Without really putting hands on them, because they'll get called for a penalty. And receivers have a lot more power, i.e. Jamar Chase, to push off of you. So they can push off of you. You can't touch them. And you're likely less athletic than the guy lining up across from you, just because of the nature of the position. The most athletic guys play receiver. So I think that corner physically is the hardest position without a doubt. But mentally, I think quarterback blows everything away. And then the mental aspect of football, the chess match there, is so important. We've seen so many guys who have all the physical traits just fail at quarterback because they can't deal with the mentals. So
for outside of quarterback, I absolutely agree with you. I think it is cornerback. But just because I want to argue, I'm going to say left tackle. I think there's a reason that left tackle is the second highest paid position on the team, and it's to protect the blind side.
Not anymore.
Of your quarterback. No,
not anymore.
No,
Myles Garrett and the edge rusher is now the second highest paid player on a football team.
That's fair. But I think consistently for most teams, it's going to be the left tackle because of the demand aspect. I think Myles Garrett is the highest paid non-quarterback because of the supply aspect. There was only one Myles Garrett, but the demand for a good pass protector is going to be higher than the demand for a good pass rusher.
Yeah, I think that there are less of them for sure. And I think that when you look at a position that blends the mental game and the physical game at the most difficult, I would say that like quarterback is at max difficulty mentally, but left tackle is probably at 80% of that. And then you still need incredible physical gifts to be a good left tackle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, being that mentally tough and that physically tough, that's a rare blend, and it makes it very hard to be a successful NFL left tackle because you're constantly having to try to counter probably the most athletic big dudes on the planet, edge rushers. You have to call out the protections, understand blitzes, be the rock, because if you screw up, your season's almost done because the quarterback is hurt, right? He'll never see it coming. So I don't disagree with the left tackle being definitely top 3, but I think that corner probably is still there just because of the limitations of the NFL officiating.
Yeah, no, I very much agree with you. To reiterate your points, the most athletic position is wide receiver. So you are going up against the most athletic position in the most penalized position as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. Not only the most penalized, but the heaviest penalized. No other position can incur, besides safety, no other position can incur a 50-yard penalty. That's just corner, and that sucks. Like, imagine committing a penalty that's 50 yards in length. Oh, man. So glad I wasn't a DB back in the day. But that's about all we have for you guys. Let us know down in the comments what you think the easiest NFL position is, and we will see you guys next week. Football is almost back and meaningful, so we cannot wait to start covering the regular season again.
Appreciate you guys.